you guys want a retro style menu for your inventory, similar to that of games like Pokemon, maybe with multiple pouches? Stay tuned and let's take a look at how we can do this. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're actually going to create the item that we're going to use for representing each of our slots inside of our inventory or our menu of items. And all we're going to use here is we're going to use a color rect for the background, and we're going to set the color to be transparent. So just grab the alpha and bring it all the way down. And this is the color that we're going to be tweaking for when an item gets selected or deselected. When it's selected, we'll have a color. When it's deselected, it'll go back to being transparent. After that, we just have two labels, one for our text and one for the amount. You can position and anchor these however you like. Myself, I've got the actual item name, so like the potion is anchored to the top left and the amount anchored to the top right. And then my item text is also set to clip so that it never extends and overlaps with the item, or with the amount rather. Now on here we do have a script, we have code here, and with this we have two custom signals, one for selected, one for deselected. I'm getting my inventory variable here, which is going to be 3 parents up in this case. And if I were to go ahead and show you this in the remote, go ahead, we take a look. This is our backpack. Oh, I'm sorry. We want to go into this menu so we can actually see the full tree. So we're going to be going up our 3 sections: remote, control, bag. So we go into our item, and there we go. So you can see the full list that we're going to be having here. We have our potion. Remember, we're going up 3, so we're going 1, 2, 3. So this is going to get the name of the specific pouch our item is in. So hopefully that's clear as to what parent we're looking for here. So we're basically getting the pouch that our item is sitting in. And then I'm using a toggle for mouse enter, which I'll be toggling on and off using the built-in signal for mouse entered and mouse exited. I have a variable here, again as a boolean, for set to false because we're going to be using a mouse, and you can see that with the mode timer and double click. If you watch the how to do a double tap action video that we had, it's that same premise. We're basically taking everything from that video and sticking it in here. My ready function, I'm just connecting my signals, and those signals are just connecting my 2 custom signals up to that pouch that we declared earlier, my invent variable. Inside of process, I have my double click timer, which is passing delta in so that we can actually use it. And again, all that's doing is if start. So if we click the one time, our start will be enabled, and we're going to be adding time onto our timer. If our timer is higher than our double click, which is our double click entry point, so we have 0.25 seconds to click a second time. But if not, then the time gets set to false and the timer gets reset. Simple, to the point. Again, if you watch the other previous video, not previous, but our double tap actions or double click video previously, all that will look familiar to you. There's the toggling mouse entered and toggling mouse entered based on whether the mouse enters or exits the area. Sorry if we're moving a little quick here. I just want to get all this in without doing like an hour or hour and a half video going on. Okay, we can move on to our input, and this is where we have our clicks. So if we left click and we are not inside the area, so we're clicking outside of the object, we emit our deselect signal. If we do click an object, then and mouse entered, and the mode timer is greater than 0, so if it's greater than 0, then we should be inside of our double click range. then we're going to be calling our activate function, which is just down below, and activating our item. Otherwise, all that's left is left clicking inside of the area. But obviously we're not in the double click phase yet, so we're just going to emit our selected signal and start our little timer. Now that activate function here, this is where we're basically setting based off of the code that we want each item to do. So inside of here, we have match, and we're just going to match our name, because when we do this, we can see, if you look up in the tree, right now mine is just named back panel, but this is going to be changed, if you noticed it earlier, inside of the bag. So if we add a potion, the name of this is going to be potion. If we add a hyper potion, it's going to be changed to hyper potion. So we're going to use that name, and we're going to use the match case here. So basically we're going to match if it's a potion, and this is just the same copy code for hyper and full heal and all that as well. Bicycle has nothing. But all we're going to do is we're going to go into our inventory, which is going to be a global script here, to our player bag, the items, because it's in the items pouch. That's where the potion should be. And we're going to use our name so that we can get the amount. Subtract 1 from it. And we're going to get our current amount after we've subtracted 1. And basically we just update the amount label that we had there. After that, we can check if the amount associated to that item is 0. Then we erase it out of the dictionary and we delete the node. Free it up. And if you're curious about that global here, this is all it is. We have a dictionary holding the player bag, and I'm separating mine by different pouches. I just have items and key, my pouch. But we could easily just add another pouch in, just putting comma and another dictionary entry. These two functions here are just put there just to make things a little easier, just so I can just call up and add item or add key item without having to have any or working around node locations or anything. And this would just make it a lot easier. And of course separate between the different types of pouches as well. So I could add, we've got add key item, we've got add item there. We could also have add quest item as another function. So we can keep everything separate and working together still. And that's it for the actual item. Game items is another function here another singleton, another autoload, which really we could just merge these two autoloads together. It wouldn't hurt anything. I just have them separate just to keep things a little organized. So this would be all my game items, which again, we'll be using the names of everything. And these are holding my descriptions for everything. And this is what's going to show up in that little description box that we had there. So going up one level, we have our actual bags here, pouches. And for this, we're going to have a current selected variable, which is going to keep track of which item we have selected. Which makes sense. We're going to have our inventory item scene preloaded and ready to go. We're got our deselect and selected colors. They're exported, so I can just tweak them over here in the inventory if I would like. Or inventory, sorry, in the inspector. And then I have an export here for pouch type, where I can go ahead and add different types in there. So every time I add a new pouch, I can just add a new type in here. Select it from the drop down, and that'll keep things nice and clean or organized, or however you want to look at. Easy to add new pouches. And make sure all my items always go into the correct pouch. As well as keeping this script reusable to just put on all my pouches. So first up, we have that add item function that we saw inside of my global inventory. And for that, we're creating a variable called current amount. By default, it's going to be set to 1. Why? Because we're always going to be either adding to it, or we're going to be entering one item into the inventory. So either way, we're starting with that 1 as a default. And we perform our check. So we say if our item name, which is what's passed in, to our arguments here. Whoops. So if the item name is already inside of our inventory, player bag, and pouch type, remember we selected from the drop down there. So we're going to get items or key. And we get .key, so we can get an array of all of our items that are inside that bag, inside that pouch. And we're checking if the item is already in our bag, right? That's basically what we're checking here. If it's in our bag, then we're just going to run through and update the quantity that's being displayed. And update our dictionary to add one into our inventory. Else, if we don't have one already inside of our bag, then we must obviously have none. So all we're going to do is add a new item. So we're going to go in, add a new dictionary entry, set it equal to 1. And with it being set to 1 there, we could just pass in the current amount since 1 is our default. Create a new instance of our item. Add it to our VBox container into our scene. And of course, change the text for the amount and the item name. Now, I'm setting mine to upper. You can set yours to whatever you want. And then I change the name of it to be the item name. Right now, for when item selected, item deselected, when those signals get sent out, remember from our name or from our item object, when we click on it and click off of it. For item selected, we're going to check if we already have an item selected. So if we've clicked on an item previously and that item is still valid, so that item still exists. And the reason we're checking for this is it's possible that the item wouldn't exist. For example, if we use the last potion in our bag, then the potion is still our currently selected item. However, we can't, as you see here, change the color of it and deselect it because that item no longer exists in our bag. So we want to make sure that it still exists before trying to deselect it or setting the color to our deselect color. And then after that, outside of our if, we go ahead and set our current selected equal to the new item that we've clicked on, and we change the color of that item to whatever our selected color is. And then if you want to have the description box, then I go ahead and create my variable for the description box. I use get node or null. That way, if the box does not exist for whatever reason, I'm not going to crash and error out. It's just going to simply skip over setting the description. So we check if our box does not equal null, which means our box does exist. Then we'll set the text of it equal to the text that we got inside of our game items, our other little dictionary that we had there. And when an item gets deselected, simple, we just set the color of that item to our deselect color. Now the reason we set this as well as up top here, what we do up top, inside of our item selected, simply because our item selected here, this works whenever we're selecting another object, but our item deselected function down here is going to work whenever we click off of the object, but we don't necessarily click another object. So if you're a little confused by that, hopefully that cleared things up a bit. If you haven't noticed, or you haven't taken a look, we can see my bag is just a node. You can make this a control, it doesn't really matter. If it's a control, you can move it around. If it's a bag, it's wherever you place it, everything. My item pouch is just the panel that I have that's colored. You see here. Then we just have a scroll container that's filling it up so that we can obviously scroll through our list as we add more and more items, and the VBox to hold all of our items. Now, I have 2 of them here. I have multiple pouches. I have my item pouch is visible, and my other pouches are not visible. That way they don't cover each other up, and we can go into the last one, our last code here, which this one is not necessarily controlling our inventory so much as setting up our inventory buttons that we have going here. And all we have in here is I have my active pouch and a list of all my pouches that are available. and I set my pouches equal to my bag, all the children of my bag. So this is going to give me my items pouch and my key item pouch. And just for demonstrations, I went ahead and just pulled in a couple of different items here. And you can see if we don't have it inside of there, then we're going to have to go through this, uncomment that. You see, we'll have to just go through all these paths, which is fine, but I just feel like this is a little cleaner to do. And for our controls, the way we have our pouch switching is I basically check whether I'm pressing left or right, and that's basically gonna just tell us if we're going to the previous or next pouch. After that, we get node, bag, and then we use our placeholder %s, because we want to check what our active pouch is. So if the active pouch is pouch index 0, then we're going to take that, make it false. We're going to update active pouch by 1 so we can go to the next pouch. Check if our pouch is greater than or equal to the size of our pouches. So at this point, since we have 2 items, if our index goes to 2, which would be the third item, that would be equal to the size of our pouch, which is a total of 2 items. So we set it back to 0. That way we can loop back around to the beginning. Then we get our new active pouch. We set it to true so we can make our new pouch visible for everybody, or for us to see and go through. And then I'm simply just updating a label on screen so that I can visually display some text as to which pouch is currently available. And then I empty out the text of my description box. And for left, I'm doing the same thing, only we're going to subtract 1 from our active pouch instead of adding 1. And for our if check on our active pouch, we'll check if it's less than 0, which means we've gone back to -1. And if that's the case, then we're just going to set the active pouch equal to our size -1 so we can get the last item. Last index rather, that we can use for the active pouch. And we set that one to true, and again, set the name and clear out the text. Okay, I know we rambled through that a little quick, and we still almost got to close to 20 minutes at this point. But as you see here, we click an item. We see we have our select color lighting up. Mine in this pouch is a transparent white. We can see the description box updating as we click on them. If we double click or click a second time within that time limit, we can see our amount updates. We lose 1. And once we have used all of them, it gets completely removed from our list. And if we click an empty area, everything gets deselected. We use our right arrow key. We can go to our key item pouch. And again, we can select and get descriptions. And the neat thing here is, as you can see, since I'm exporting that color, I can have different select and deselect colors for each pouch if I wanted to do something a little unique. And if I use my left arrow key, we loop around between them all. We use right arrow key, we loop around. And as you can see there, we can have different items selected, so that's kind of not really stored in the memory there, but you can see what the last item you clicked on, even if you've already switched pouches. Alright. Hopefully you guys learned a bit there on how to make yourself an old school inventory system, like something that you would see in Pokemon, that allows you to have different pouches. With that, take care. I'll see you guys in the next one, and there should be a video coming out as well sometime between this one and the next one, and I'd love to have you guys' input on it towards some of the things we'll be doing on the channel going forward.